I could have been born into a country someplace else and could have a completely different experience in life. But I happened to be born in the Bahamas, which at the time that we grew up, I would say was probably the best place in the world. Well, I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about accomplishments, but it does, reflect positively when I start talking to people who are trying to do similar type of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that the opportunity that I have and the things I'm doing isn't, super normal. I know I wanted to be financially successful, always from day one. I didn't know how I was going to get there, right? So, I think I thought about businesses, but working at a big company, I wouldn't say was on my first list. So when I got into a room, I never felt like I shouldn't be there. I felt like I should be there, that there was value that whoever invited me into that meeting knew I was going to bring. So going back to the confidence thing, it was less about who all is in this room and more about what impact am I going to have. I want to lead at a high level, and I want to make sure that everybody who is from the country that I'm from is proud of the work that I'm doing. There is always this motivating factor of like, I got to keep going further, got to keep going further, got to keep going further, to try to have as much possible impact as I can.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the new episode of the Myles Podcast. This is Myles Jr. I'm your host, and as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right? So I got a special pod today, got a friend of mine on the pod, a very successful friend of mine, someone that I've known pretty much all my life. He is really elevated in the ranks in his profession. Someone that I admire, I'm inspired by consistently, and that I look up to, right? Just because of his life's trajectory and the journey that he's been on. I've seen it every step of the way. I think this is going to make for a great conversation. So I want to welcome my guy, Ralph Clare II, to the pod.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, my bro. Welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining the pod, man. So you're a senior vice president of merchandising and OTC.
Yeah.
Did I get it right?
That's good enough.
Okay.
Close enough.
Man, so, you have that position, you hold that position at Walmart, which is the largest retailer in the world, right? Correct. So it's a global organization. You're in charge, you're SVP in that organization, in charge of a multi-billion-dollar portfolio. Yep. I think about it, man, and we have these conversations all the time, and it's just always inspiring, right? To know where you came from, where it all started, and to see where you are now, and the success that you've achieved. First of all, let me just say I'm encouraged by it, man. I'm proud of you, proud of what you've done, proud of the journey that you've been on, the success that you've had. Yeah. You're an inspiration, not just to me, but I'm sure to a lot of our other friends as well. So just want to extend those congratulations to you, bro. How does it feel, like, where you're at and what you have been able to accomplish?
Yeah, I appreciate it. When I think about it, I am just like a regular guy, and I don't really feel a certain type of way about any of the accomplishments. And I think that's kind of a twofold component, maybe three. One, the place where we work, you've been there, really humble place. The culture in the company is everybody's a guy, adding value to the company. And then when I come home, nobody knows who I am. So you don't really get much time to reflect on.
When you say home, you mean when you come to the Bahamas?
When I come to the Bahamas, nobody knows who I am, which is good. It's healthy. And so I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about accomplishments. And we've had these conversations before. I just, on to the next thing. So, but it does, reflect positively when I start talking to people who are trying to do similar type of things. And I realize that the opportunity that I have and the things I'm doing isn't, super normal, and that would be the times when I'd say, okay, all right, we're doing something.
Something good. Yeah,
we're doing something.
So let's start from the beginning then, right? So obviously you're a Bahamian, right?
Yes.
I think that in and of itself, from starting there to where you're at now, that's a story in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Because who would expect or would have thought that someone from this little country in the middle of the ocean would go across the waters into the free world, the freest country in the world supposedly, and just achieve what you've been able to achieve, right? So let's just talk with your start, right? So being from the Bahamas, I want you to speak on that a bit. Let's talk about family life. Let's talk about what it was like growing up in the Bahamas for you, like your start, and then a little bit about your educational background.
This is, so when you think about everybody's like opportunities in life, I think the most important start is where you were raised, the country you're raised into. I could have been born into a country someplace else and could have a completely different experience in life. But I happened to be born in the Bahamas, which at the time that we grew up, I would say was probably the best place in the world.
Best era
for a Black man to be born into. This place is the most self-confidence building.
Really?
100%.
Let's lean into that. Why?
100%. Because you don't know what you don't know. And you are in an environment where you're in that situation for so long, it creates a steady foundation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so before you get exposed to the other things that you didn't know, your foundation is already built. So it's hard for you to get shaken. And I think that was instrumental for me in the different places that I kind of went. So, growing up in the Bahamas, looking at the dollar bill and seeing people that look like me, looking at the leadership team and seeing people that look like me, being in a community, a country that is successful and it's ran by people that look like me, and also built up by people that don't look like me. I mean, like, it is a pretty well functioning country, and we just kind of grew up in that time. I would say my grandfather would probably had a different perspective. My dad probably had a different perspective, but I think when we came up, it was perfect. And I think it still is and continues to improve. Like, it's perfect in different ways. It has its flaws, but I mean, when I look at the global scale, it's not so bad.
Yeah. So, well, you grew up the son of a pastor.
Yep.
Pastors, I should say. Both your parents are pastors, have their own church.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm the son of a pastor,
That's
so
right.
we have that in common.
Yep.
So let me just show our history, right? So Ralph and I went to we were in preschool together.
Yeah.
We have this conversation all the time. Yeah. So he went to the same we went to the same preschool, and after grade K4, you changed schools, right?
Kingsway.
But during our time in preschool, he and I were like best friends, or like great friends. I would say best friends, because like we like I knew you, right? I remembered you and all of that. And then he left my school and went to another school, and we didn't reconnect until college, bro.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just crazy how I still remembered our friendship from kindergarten straight up until college. So, again, so I think this ties back to our parents, because they were great friends and being in ministry. So, that's the connection where I guess our connection started, right? But you're the son of two pastors. Let's talk about that. How was it being a PK?
I'd say it was a great experience. It was, for me, it was.
Speak for yourself.
we weren't on the world stage like you guys. We were a local community church, and I went in and I knew everybody, it was great. I spent a lot of time in that stage of my life, learning how to interact with different people all the time, and public speaking that's where I picked that up because mom and dad would say, hey, I want you to go and speak on a topic, and so I'm 13, I'm 14. I had to prepare my material. I had to run it through with them, and then I had to go in front of 50, 75 people, 100 people and talk to them about stuff.
And you were fine from the break? Like, it was no issue? Like, no stage fright, nervousness?
No, never stage fright, because at that time I did it in front of people I knew, right?
So you're comfortable?
I was quite comfortable. And you know how it is. They build you up once you come off stage, regardless of how terrible it is. You get a big applaud, and everybody is like, this is great. You need to do it again. I'm like, I don't feel like it was that good. But you get those reps in, and that was the beauty of that. So it's community, it's giving back, and then you get the opportunity to build some skills that most people didn't get the opportunity to. So I mean, that was instrumental for me at that particular time. And they're still doing it, so I still get to partake, but it's different. Right, and I get to give back.
You any plans on taking over the church one day?
None.
No?
Not my calling.
You don't want to be a pastor, maybe?
No, I do not. No, that's their calling.
I got you.
I'm here to help, but not my thing.
Got you. All right, so education, let's talk about that. So obviously you and I went to the same kindergarten together, then you went to a different elementary school. Let's talk about your educational background here in Ireland. Yeah,
so went to Temple Christian and then moved to be with my sisters at Kingsway Academy in kindergarten, which was great for me. Spent a few years there, left there. It's a funny story. I remember my oldest had graduated. My second oldest sister was about to graduate. And my mom was like, hey, do you want to stay at Kingsway or do you want to go to another school? And I was like, let me get back to you. So we go to church. I have a couple colleagues. One of my friends, his name was Christian. He went to St. Augustine's College. And I was like, can you tell me about it? I've heard a lot. And so he told me about it. This is this, and we have dances, and, the school is a lot of fun, and all these other things. And so I went to my mom, and I was like, I got it. I want to go to St. Augustine's College. And she's like, you sure? You don't know anybody there? You have a lot of friends at Kingsway. You sure you want to just go? And I was like, yep. I want to go. Grass is greener. And this scenario was right. So 8th grade, went to St. Augustine's College, was really rough. At Kingsway, for whatever reason, great grades, all A's, went to St. Augustine's, wasn't the same.
Really?
Yeah, it was hard. Different material, different teaching style, and also didn't know anybody, and had to learn how to learn quickly. I had to figure out how to build a relationship with people, network from Kingsway to St. Augustine. So I didn't know anybody except for one or two people that were ahead of me. So very quickly I had to build a group of people that I could learn from, that were good at the things that I wasn't good at, and try to add value to them as well. So the things that I was good at would help them. The things that I wasn't good at, they would help me, and I was able to quickly turn it around.
What kind of things were you not good at that you needed help with, and the things that you were good at that you were able to help others with?
Yeah, I would say, when I flipped from Kingsway to St. Augustine's, it was just a different teaching style. And for whatever reason, the material felt different. And it could be math, geography. Like, there were some things that came easy, computer science. And then there were some things that just were a little bit harder. And I don't know if it was actually hard or if it was me just figuring out how to survive in this new environment. Because there are a couple of things that happened during that first year. This is when I first got acquainted with loneliness, because this is when my sister I mentioned, my second oldest sister, she left to go to school. So, youngest brother, last one of three, I look up and it's just me and my mom and dad. I was like, this sucks. There's nothing wrong with my mom and dad. I have a great time with them. Spend a lot of time. We have a great time. But it's the siblings all gone. And it was like, man, this is rough. So it was my sister's leaving. It was, new school. And it was, didn't have a ton of friends. And I had to build all of that. And so I had to learn that really quickly. I would say I remember I had a moment with my mom where I just was like, we were at church one night and I just was like crying, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I miss my sisters." And like after that like moment, I had a flip. Like it was all good after that. I don't know why, but I learned a lot about myself at that point.
How old were you at the time?
How old was I? I think I was like 13.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I just learned, you know, that I have to take a moment and reflect whenever I feel like I'm in a tough spot. And once I have the reflection point, I move.
Do you think getting all of those emotions out helped you to get past it?
I think so. Mm-hmm. And then it was, you know, it was also kind of my mom. She can talk. She knew how to talk to me, mm-hmm. right? She knew how to get me to open up about stuff that I didn't want to be open about. And so, you know, still does. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it was just like having that moment of identifying where the issue was coming from, addressing that, and then I was able to move on.
So how long did it take you to turn it around at SAC once you got there?
1 semester.
So 1 semester it took
Yep.
you to adjust.
Yep.
And then after that, you know, good
On a roll
grades.
every semester.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
And develop good relationships, I assume.
Good relationships. I mean, lifelong relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Trev, our mutual friend, we packed groceries together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for years. You know, something I can't do in the States. And you talk about building reps. Like I was packing groceries at age 11. You know, I look at my nephews now and I'm like, you guys need to get to work. You know, 13, 14, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm packing groceries at 11. And that's
so
when
let's talk about that, because we've spoken about this quite a bit. You know, and it wasn't just the fact that you were a packing boy, but you took pride in it, right?
100%.
And you were happy with the fact that you were able to make money for yourself, because let's talk about what started that path of you like, okay, I need to go get a job at that early age.
It was friends. I had a buddy, still a friend of mine. We're not as close as we used to be back then, but I had a buddy named Scotty, and we went to Kingsway together. And I remember one summer I called Scott and I was like, hey, let's go play basketball. And he's like, I ain't going to play basketball, I'm going to work. And I'm like, what? You going to work? He's like, yeah, I just got a job at the grocery store, Super Value out East. So I was like, all right. So like, if my guy's working, I'm going to be working too. So I called, got my mom, and I was like, hey, you can help me to get this job? So we went to the store. She hooked me up. They got someone to connect me in, and I started working.
And that was the first job that you had?
That was the first job I had.
And just salary, what you made was just tips? Or
tips.
No salary?
Tips. And it was the best experience ever. It's funny, because I started out my career packing groceries in the grocery store.
And
now I'm working at like the largest retailer grocery.
And it's,
across the board.
Every time we talk about this, or you talk about this, this your start as a packing boy, there's just so much pride in it, bro.
100%.
Right? And I think
100%.
I think of growing up in the Bahamas, packing boys aren't really like the top notch job, right? It's almost one of those jobs where you don't say that you have, or you aren't proud of. Just like, what was that mindset for you? Like, not really caring on like what friends or others may have thought, and for you it was just like, hey, this is a great opportunity, I could make money. Like, what was it?
Listen, I was with my guys every day. I could buy whatever I want without having to ask for permission. And I had, so, you get into business, you think about absolute and relative kind of comparisons, right? And absolute was I was making money. Relative was I made more money than the cashiers. And
Really?
So, yes. And so when I thought to myself, like, this is a really good gig, I'm making $250 a week, and I'm 11 years old.
So the amount of money you made, was it? So, because I'm assuming you were able to gauge, like, okay, I need to be nice or be courteous or say this and do that to get like extra tip. How did you develop those type of skills?
You just watching other people. You watch what works for others. You see someone that would pack up someone's groceries and they don't say anything and they just put it on the deal, and the person just walk past and say thank you. That's it. Then you see somebody else that says, good afternoon, ma'am. Would you like paper or plastic? And they're like, oh, yeah, I take paper. All right. And then you see how they interact. And then they say, hey, can I take it out for you? Oh, yeah, it's only one bag. But yes, since you're a nice young man, you can take it out for me. I get $1 tip. And so you learn those things and you pick it up from different people and you say, all right, cool. What am I going to put into my style to get the people to pay me?
What was your biggest payday back then?
Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, we walk out of there $100, $120 Christmas Eve. Every other kids are home, okay, waiting for Santa Claus. I'm out there collecting dollar bills. You know, it was so empowering for me. Like, and I remember I'd walk to work and I'd walk home. Back in them times, I don't know if you're still good, but it was like, I'm leaving work at 9:30 because store closes at 9. I had to do carrybacks. And so I'm walking home at 9:30. I'm 12, 13 years old, getting up 7 o'clock to be at the store when it opens the next day because I want to hit my early shoppers because we had customers, right?
Really?
These are people that every time they come in the store, they look for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, my customers, I knew at 8 o'clock, my customers were going to be there. They tip me well. So I got to make sure I'm there.
And you worked 8-hour days or did they fluctuate?
During the summertime.
Okay.
They would fluctuate. Like Saturdays, it was hard to work because there was always a ton of packers there. Like it was hard. So they put us on shifts. So I work either morning shift or evening shift. But like on the summertime, it was usually you could work full days.
I would imagine that shaped your business acumen, right? The way that you approach things, the way that you approach, at least the mindset that you had from a business perspective, or even like building relationships and how to get things from persons by the way that you spoke to them or what you said or didn't say or how you presented yourself. It was
motivating others. You have to find ways to motivate. I had to find ways to motivate people to compensate me because that was the job. I got paid off of tips. And so at a young age, I had to figure out this lady, what she likes to hear, this person, what they want to hear. I remember I had people I would call sir because sir was great for me at that time. Yes, sir. And people would be like, don't call me sir. I'm not that old. I'm sorry. Please still tip me. But you just learn people, right? So I did that job for maybe 4 or 5 years. So I had 4 or 5 years of just
people skills,
learning people.
So after that, like what was next in the job market for you?
Man, after that, I started getting underpaid. I remember working at a car wash because I'm like, all right, I'm too old for packing groceries now. I worked at a car wash for like 3 weeks. I'm like, forget this. This is trash. Like I made like a fraction of what I was making packing groceries.
Really?
Yeah, it was nothing. And it was a lot of work. It wasn't for me. I was on to the next thing. Then I started doing stuff around church with my daddy, and that's automatic family discount. I'm getting paid nothing. I might as well just do this for free.
A plate of food.
I got a roof on my head. Thank you. I'll wash the church buses now. But yeah, so didn't do a ton. And then I got an opportunity. I was 16. I got an opportunity, I think it was 10th grade, to work at British American Bank. British American Insurance in accounting. And, because how it is in the Bahamas, you got select groups of careers you can take.
Yep.
My sister was a doctor. My other sister was a lawyer. And so mine was accounting because I was okay with numbers. So I did accounting. I was at British American Insurance. I was a connection from a guy at our church, Brother Julian Glover, and worked, I think it was the youngest intern at that time that they had in the accounting department. So I did that job after summer and realized that I did not want to be an accountant. So I was like, this is terrible.
Was it a paid internship?
Paid internship.
Okay.
Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, it was not for me.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's more to life than what you're experiencing? That deep down, you're meant for something greater? It's time to stop wondering and start discovering. At the Munroe Institute of Leadership, we believe every person carries a unique purpose, a calling designed specifically for you. Our transformative courses, Discover Purpose and Unlock Your Potential, are crafted to help you uncover that purpose and equip you with the tools to step confidently into your destiny. These powerful courses are for leaders, entrepreneurs, students, and visionaries like you. Through proven principles and actionable insights, you will clarify your vision and set bold goals. You will identify your strengths and passions. You will overcome the barriers holding you back, and you will step boldly into your God-given potential. Our expert facilitators draw from timeless and tested principles, blending practical strategies with kingdom truths. to empower you to lead a life of purpose, impact, and transformation. The world needs what you have to offer. Don't let another day pass without unlocking the greatness within you. Visit our website, themill.org, and register today. The Munroe Institute of Leadership. Renew your mind and transform a generation.
Yeah. And then from there, what next?
From there, that was it for working here.
Okay.
After that, I was off to school. Yeah.
All right, so let's get off to school. So let me tell you my recollection of school, right? So I graduated high school before you, so I was off a semester ahead of you because I went off. I started my college in the spring, so I started the second half of what would be everyone's like first semester or first year.
Yeah.
But I remember, summertime coming home, then going back that fall. And I was walking to my dorms, right? This was first one of the early days during that semester. Walking to my dorms, I had to pass this set of elevators to like some other dorms that were right before mine. Man, and I remember, you remember this? You remember like us this first time us connecting on campus?
It was in the fishbowl.
No. No,
okay.
you were coming off the elevator, and I remember because guess how weird it was.
Okay, good.
Right?
Keep going with the story.
Elevator doors opened. It was you were like the first person I saw, but it was like other group of guys in there or whatever. And I looked at you guys like, Ralph? And you was like, Charo! And I was like, bro, what are the odds? Because like you and I, we hadn't connected since preschool.
Yeah.
Right? So it had been
ages.
8 to 15.
Well, we'd see each other around, like, but
I don't. Where do we see
church?
each other?
If I'd go to BFM or something like that.
We never,
but we wasn't like linking up.
Yeah,
yeah.
having conversations.
Right,
and just like, hey, what's up or whatever. But like that moment was like, yo, I remember this guy from long ago, and it's crazy that he and I are now going to the same school. Like no conversations prior to. So first of all, what got you to ORU? Because I mean, like no one.
Wasn't my first choice.
I was about to say, in my mind, like at least at the time, my mindset was no one asked to come here. Like no one wants or
some people, I think,
offers
to go to. You gotta hear a little bit of credit. Hey, some people want to go there.
And I said this a lot of my pod. My dad gave me two options. He was like, you could stay in the Bahamas or you go to RU. I said, ORU. I didn't want to stay here at all. I definitely wanted to get off the island. So that was how I got there. And it was a great experience. We connected, reconnected, made some new acquaintances. But how did you end up at ORU?
Simple story. Same pretty unstructured approach maybe as other things. But it was my parents. They had a perspective that was informed by somebody and recommended that I go to Oral Roberts University. And that somebody was Dr. Myles Munroe. And I was like, well, thanks, this is great. And I was not excited about it at all. My mom told me, hey, if you don't like it after the first year, you can leave. We can go someplace else. And at that time, I had already gotten accepted into a couple different universities. Morehouse was one of them. Fisk, I think, was another. Because, we were both in Gents Club. And so we had some of those connections to get into those schools. And so those were my top choices. But we went to Oral Roberts University, got there, and I don't know if I fell in love with the school, but I think the friendship base was like, okay, I'm good here.
Yeah.
I'm good here.
School was cool. It was cool.
Yeah,
school was cool. I can talk about it.
No.
Why you provided a good base for me. In
100%.
I can't deny that for sure.
100%.
So I think it was a great option for me to go to.
Good.
Yeah. So so we went to college, connected. Man, you went on to grad school, did grad, and then first let me ask you this: between growing up in the Bahamas and going off to school, was there a mindset change for you where you saw this opportunity or desire, I should say, to become a global leader, or like to be a leader on a global stage or part of a global organization? Was that ever a desire for you?
No, I didn't know. I know I wanted to be financially successful, always from day one. I didn't know how I was going to get there, right? So, I mean, I think I thought about businesses. I thought about starting my own business. I thought about, we had different approaches at that time of what we felt as though would work to get financial independence. But working at a big company, I wouldn't say was on my first list. Because I'd had, several internships at, banks here in the Bahamas and insurance companies, and it wasn't kind of my jam.
Yep.
It felt like I did well in those positions, in those roles, but it wasn't top of my list. But I do know that I wanted to have an impact, and I actually did want to come back home to do that. And I did that for a little while, realized this wasn't the place where it's going to happen, and then went back to the States. And I think at that point is when I realized I got to do something different.
I think this is a good story for us to talk about, because so we graduated undergrad, and both of us came back home and got a job. I got my intentions were to I don't know if my intentions was to go back to school. I don't think it was at the time. I think my intentions was to find a job here. And then like come up with a business on the side for me to start or whatever. Yeah. And I remember this was a year we were home. Both of us, I think, were home for a year after graduating undergrad, and we had a desire to. We had planned to go somewhere. I don't know if it was the family.
Freeport.
Okay.
Yes, I remember very specifically.
And we had it was a business trip, business
flights booked, mopeds rented.
Right. So
ready to go.
Had this business idea.
Yes. Yes.
And we spoke to my dad.
It was real estate. We was going to look at some.
That's
we were
what
going
it
to
was.
go look at
Yes,
some properties.
Yes. We would go look at some properties. We spoke to my dad, and my dad shot it down like
100%.
Y'all got to be crazy.
Correct.
Like, ain't no way y'all going over.
I will never forget that. That was transformational in my life.
Yeah.
I remember it was the night before we were supposed to leave to go, invest. I don't know what money we was going to use to invest, but hey, we were doing something. Okay. But you call me and you're like, hey, Pops want to talk to us. And I was like, what did you do? I was so upset. I was like, bro, what did you tell them? Why you had to say something? Yeah, what do you mean? Why I say something? I had to. We leave it, all right? So I go there. And you tell me to wait out. And you go in there and you came back. He's like, okay, Dad, Daddy see you now. So he sets me in his office. It's like, Mr. Clare, you guys aren't going on the trip tomorrow. I was like, what? You haven't even heard my spiel. Let me tell you why we're going and why it's important. He's like, yeah, y'all not going tomorrow. And then we had a really good conversation. And that conversation, I would say, was fundamental. And my parents would say they seeded that also, because Mom and Dad wanted me to go back to school. And I was like, no, I got business to attend to. I don't know what business. I had zero business.
Very ambitious. I don't know. No idea.
But he's like, hey, so talk to Myles, and he's like, hey, you need to go back to school, and you need to go get a job and figure out like how to do stuff before you start talking about opening up your own business. And let me tell you, I took that and I ran with that. And like every decision from that point was, I got to get to that point that we talked about.
And I think for me that was transformational too, right? That period, that conversation, because that's what my dad instilled in me. Like, yo, you need to go get a master's, right? And I was like, okay, if I'm gonna get a master's, I want to get it in something that I'm actually interested in. Like, entrepreneurship was like one of those things that I just always loved and like wanted to dive headfirst into. And I saw these opportunities to get an MBA with an entrepreneurial focus, and I was like, all right, cool, that's it, that's what I'm going for. So cool, man. I mean, that our plans were diverted at the time, but I think it worked out. It was a part of our journey. So you went off to do your master's. Did that, graduated, and then you got an opportunity. Right, an opportunity to start at Walmart. So let's talk about your start. How did you get started at Walmart?
I reluctantly took an interview. So I think the first step for me was I did what I was supposed to do. So people talk about, right place, right time, all these other things. I think it starts with you need to do what you're supposed to do. So what I was supposed to do was make sure I had a resume that was well detailed and uploaded to the career kind of site at Missouri State that was my job. From there, Walmart came in town and they started pulling resumes, and mine was there, and they wanted to talk to me. I took the interview. It was with this gentleman named Felipe Barahona. He's a great guy. But we talked, so on my resume, I had like, at the time, you have like your high school and your jobs at the time, which were all in the Bahamas. And he's like, I noticed, one of the reasons why you pull your resume, because, it says that you kind of spent some time in the Bahamas. And so he's like, can you tell me about that? And I was like, how much time we got, So I walked him through, growing up here. And then he expressed with me that he was a teacher at one point and taught on one of the islands and had a phenomenal experience with the Bahamian people. And so I don't know who those people were, but I got to thank them because that was one of the reasons. If he had a terrible experience, I don't think he'd be looking. My resume might not have got pulled. Because again, it wasn't the most stellar resume, right? It was the differentiator amongst the thousands that were there. I had a different background. And it's not like it was a scrub either. My grades are fine, but not like it was the best out of the pack. So, got that opportunity, interviewed with Walmart. They asked me to come down, and I drove there because Springfield was like 2.5 hours maybe from Bentonville. I got there and I was like,
where am I?
I think I'm in the wrong place. Okay. I checked in my hotel, drove around town. I was like, there's nothing here. And I get to Walmart for the interview, like the final interview, and I go to the wrong building. There was the Walmart home office, and then there was this building called the Tata building across the street, which was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 stories. I was like, that has to be the place, right? So I go there and I was like, where do I check in? I have an interview today. I was like, with who? I was like, Walmart. He was like, that's across the street. I was like, no, it's not. So I go in there, and this was before we started any of the renovation. Now, we have a fantastic and beautiful campus now, but this is before then. And it was still like, almost like they were still doing distribution type stuff, like packages coming out. I was like, what is going on here? So a guy comes out, I go and interview, I did well, and then got an opportunity to work with Walmart. I remember the guy called me, his name was Mike. He called me, I was sleeping. It was maybe like 7 o'clock or 7:30, because back in those days, work started at 7:30 at Walmart, right? So he called me at 7:30. I'm still in bed. He's calling me. He's like, hey, Ralph Clare. He's like, yes, sir. This is Mike Phillips. We'd love to make you an offer. And he gave me the offer, and he's like, how does that sound? I was like, sounds great. He's like, when can you start? I said, I graduate on Friday. Graduate on Saturday. I could be there on Monday.
Wow.
He's like, okay. So, after long story short, I went to work.
So your intentions, your first job, what was the position that you were offered?
Yeah, I was in project management. So there's this function called customer experience, and we basically worked on pulling together initiatives that tied to a strategy, but had a lot of loose ends. And because of the size of the company, you needed someone just to kind of walk you through the channels.
And what was your intentions with the job? Like I'm getting this job, and my goals are, like, what were your goals?
Yeah, no more than a year. Get in, get this on my resume, because I didn't know anything about corporate. A year, I was like, I get this experience, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to a city. And it so happened that that was 2008, and the entire world went away during the financial crisis. Yep. And, things were looking good at Walmart. So I was like, well, I guess I'll stay here. And that's kind of where everything kind of went off.
So being at Walmart at the time, did you feel you had to adopt a certain type of mindset to be there, to be successful there?
No, man. Like, I would tell you, my first job at Walmart was maybe too ideal, because I fell in love with the company, because the function was like, my job was learning how to get things done in the company. And so as long as I was aggressive with doing that, I would end up okay. And then, because of the nature of the job, I'm flying on private jets. I remember the first time calling my mom and dad, and I was like, I'm going on a private jet. This is crazy, And so, like, I had a unique kind of connection with the company. I don't think a lot of people did at the time, right? So very early, I was like, I could do some really cool things here.
And do you feel you had a chip in your shoulder of any kind?
I mean, I wouldn't say I had a chip on my shoulder, but I would say what really fueled me is the fact that I left the Bahamas. This is interesting because like in my mindset, my mentality was, if you're gonna be like kind of regular, you could do that and have access to the beach and see your family all the time. But if you're going to like be here, you gotta try to be the best. And so that was the motivating factor for me. That was the working on Saturdays and coming in on Sundays if I needed to, because I'm like, I gotta put in the time so I could have the impact I want to have.
And so you started in 2008.
That was it.
So you've been there ever since. How has your growth and development been? Because obviously we've had these conversations.
Yeah.
You've had a ton of mentors, a ton of people that has assisted you along
100%.
the way, and your story is unique because I truly see the benefits of relationships. Right?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
establishing good relationships. I have this one. It's one story. I don't know if we can talk about it on the pod.
Yeah.
But it was you on the job and one of your supervisors, and it was just some challenges that you had, right, with some a supervisor or a manager or whatever. And I remember like us trying to talk through it, or me trying to talk through it, and just being like, bro, like this is life. This is what it is. Like it's just something you have to manage, right? Yeah. But how have you been able to manage yourself through the company, through your growth, through the successes that you had, and then some challenges? Because I'm sure you had some persons who might have felt you wasn't deserving of the things you were getting, and may have been a little envious of your success. So how has the life at Walmart been?
I would say success in the world's largest company is never self-derived. Like it is a network of people. Mm-hmm. It is relationships that you build. It is people taking bets on you and you having to deliver against those bets. And I would say when I came in, some of the things that I learned how to do, if it was when I switched schools or when I went to college or even when we were in Spain for a little bit of time, I had to put all those things together.
Yeah, so I just want to interject here because you were talking about so as a packing boy, the skills you had to learn, and switching from one high school to the next, the kind of mentality you had to learn, skills you had to learn. So I'm guessing that all of that was developing you and preparing you for like these roles you were about to witness, right? Yep. And you drew that connection at the time, or did you not realize it yet?
I did because what I realized over the time is I put myself maybe unintentionally in difficult situations. And because I did that, I learned how to operate well in those situations.
Got you.
And so I never really got into a spot. Like if you think about the places that I've been, I switched schools at a young age, leaving a familiar environment to unfamiliar. And we take it for granted, but at 18, we leave our families and go to another country where we generally don't know anybody. That's normal for us. That's really not normal for a lot of people. You're still in your same country, right? So we leave our country. And then you and I took it even further, went to another country where we didn't speak the language, and we had to learn how to speak the language and get up to speed really quickly to figure out what we're doing there.
So just to explain this, Gina and I did a study abroad program that was attached to our undergrad degree. And we went to Spain for a couple of months, Valencia, Spain, to be specific. So we're in those situations, and then I spent time in Springfield, Missouri, and all these other things, and it's just like, in every scenario, I'm putting myself in environments that were a bit uncomfortable. And so when I got into the company, I drew on to those experiences, which is, if I could do all those other things, I could do this. And very quickly, I had to pull in some of those things, like watching other people work. Like, all right, how do they present? How do they talk? Very quickly, I had to identify people who I felt did a really good job at things that I wanted to do a really good job at, and figure out which components of what they do I could include into my skill set. If it's pulling together presentations, so after project management, I went into kind of segment FP&A,
which is in U.S. finance, and that's in that environment. I had to learn what presentations got the best success, what talk tracks went the best with the streets, because at that time I had to help to write the earnings script for the company. Earnings script being when we released to the streets.
And the streets meaning
the market.
So this guy talks in corporate jargon, right? So a lot of the times, even in our group talks, he'll put these acronyms and be like, bro, no one knows this. Like, you really have to. We need a legend for you to tell us, like, oh, SVP means and CLRL means, you know what I mean? So, for us layman folk.
Yeah, no, it's just whenever the company releases its earnings to shareholders.
To the streets.
To the streets, right, to the streets. So I had to do that and just, learn very quickly how to emulate others that I felt as though were doing really good at their jobs. Because sometimes you get in your own mind space and say, and I've seen a lot of people do this, which is, I gotta stand out, I gotta do it different than everybody else. And a lot of times that creates unnecessary energy and effort, which gets wasted. Because if there's an approach that works, you take that approach. Once you take that approach, then you could pivot it at some point and put your own spin on it. But no need to recreate the wheel.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works.
No, it makes sense. What has been your maybe one of your biggest professional and maybe even personal challenge over the years?
That's an interesting question. I think remaining my authentic self. I think it has been and always will be, I think, a challenge in an environment that is always changing and filled with lots of opinions. And I just got blessed to be under leadership that really valued that. And so, you got to think through, we're in Arkansas in 2020 when everything just became very weird in the United States. And, people leaned on me for authentic feedback, which is very uncomfortable to give, sitting in front of executives and them asking me, hey, what do you think about this? And I got to be real. I can't, sugarcoat anything. And I got to say it's a problem.
The normal thing to do at the time that most people did was to not challenge anything and just be like, hey, this is what you want to hear, so this is what I'm going to say.
I think people weren't fully they weren't unvarnished. They weren't very transparent with things. I think there were some that did. But when you work at big companies, there's always a fear of being pegged to be in certain things. I think Walmart as a company does an absolute great job, or does its best to make sure people feel comfortable in their own skin to do and speak the way they need to. But sometimes it gets difficult. And so staying your true authentic self, I think, is a challenge, and even more if you're not on an organization that values that. I got lucky. I worked for a great leader at that time, Latrice Watkins, who is currently our chief merchandising officer. And she encouraged us to speak freely, to, be our authentic selves. I didn't even know what that meant before I started working for her. And so I think that is something as a leader, and you kind of grow into the roles that you have. You want to be an authentic leader. You want to be a leader that people feel comfortable coming to talk to, that they could be themselves with. But also people want to work hard for. You don't really want people to come and talk to you about anything and then they don't deliver.
Yeah.
Those are called friends. They're not they're not colleagues and associates. You got to have both, right? And so that's probably, I think, as I continue to grow and how I've grown in the company, that's one thing that I have to constantly remind myself, that there's a value there and the company values it. And the leadership team that we have in place right now, they also value it.
So when did things shift for you, right? Because you started at Walmart, your goal was to just, spend a year there and move on. When did it shift for you to say, I want to stay here and I want to climb the corporate ladder? What was that time period? What happened? Let's talk about that.
You always want to know where you are in an organization and who you're up against. And that's one of the key, I think, benefits of mine, which is I had people in leadership positions who would say, hey, these 3 people are ahead of you, man. You need to pull this up. You need to get better here. They've talked about your communication. You need to sharpen that up. And so, having mentors and colleagues that would give me that feedback, and then also being willing to take that feedback.
I was about to say, because that's the most important thing, right? Because people could give you
100%.
feedback and stuff as much as they want.
Yeah.
But if you don't accept that and make the change that's necessary,
Listen, I grew up in a household with, a very strong father and 3 incredibly strong women. And what I learned to do is listen. Okay, so when mom said go do, when Keisha or Tazi said go do, I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so from a young age, people that I respect, I listen to. Mm-hmm. Now people I don't respect, I usually don't listen to. But people that I respect, I listen to. And I remember at the time there was, and he's still a good friend of mine, Jeff Angley, Jeff. Yep. And he was the one who really helped me to figure out like the formula, which would be, specifically focused around not only the work that you're doing, but the relationships that you're building, and then the value that you're adding. Mm-hmm. And it always has to be more than what everybody else is willing to do. Mm-hmm. And it has to be in a way that is authentic to your style of work. Mm-hmm. I had Jeff at the time, who was my mentor, and still a mentor, who would say, hey, you need to think about this, mm-hmm. or you need to try this, mm-hmm. or there's this job that's open, you need to go apply for it.
So coming from the Bahamas, right? You mentioned being able to grow up here and see people that look like you in leadership positions. We had our forefathers on our money, their images on our money, and just seeing like people of a darker hue in leadership, right? And then you're at Walmart now. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of Black individuals in these high leadership positions. Yep. How has that been for you? Like, has that been intimidating? Has that been encouraging? It's something for you to strive for. Like, what's that mindset?
I would say as long as I've been with the company, there was always been a African American or Black person in a high level of leadership. Mm. So you'd see him. So when I was in finance at the time, our CFO was an African American. Mm. So even though it wasn't that common, they still kind of were visible. But there are a lot of times that I'd be in the room and I look around and be like, it's just me. And honestly, I never, to tell you the truth, never really thought about it.
Got you.
Because
you think it's because you demand respect, like in these rooms?
I don't know if it's
the value that you bring demands that respect.
I felt like I was in an organization that was very fair in how they promoted and rewarded people. Mm. It was 100% work-based production. I can't say that's probably how every organization was, but at the time, I mean, we had a really good process of calibrating talent and promoting those that did well. Sure. So when I got into a room, I never felt like I shouldn't be there. I felt like I should be there. And that there was value that whoever invited me into that meeting knew I was going to bring. So going back to the confidence thing, it was less about who all is in this room and more about what impact am I going to have when I leave this room.
Value you bring. Got you. Makes sense. So, the success that you've achieved to this point, like what's the driver? What's your driver? Like what drives you to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep striving for, more? Like, is there a pinnacle for you? Is there a ceiling?
I don't know if you remember, I have 2 kids that are very expensive. No, I mean, this may sound cliche, may sound corny, but I love what I do. Like, I've always wanted the gig that I currently have. And I still feel like there are other people that I perform at a higher level than that are higher levels than me. And not only just like in the company, but externally. Like, I calibrate based on, leaders that are assigned opportunities in different companies. And I calibrate on leaders that are assigned opportunities in our company. And I think to myself that, hey, I can do I could still have value. I could add value in those jobs. I could not so much compare to them and say I could better than them,
Sure.
but I'm like, I could lead at a high level. And that's the motivating factor, which is I want to lead at a high level, and I want to make sure that everybody who is from the country that I'm from is proud of the work that I'm doing. Now, a lot of people don't get visibility to that. Anytime I get the opportunity, when I introduce myself, I'm Ralph Clare from the Bahamas. But there is always this motivating factor of like, I got to keep going further, got to keep going further, got to keep going further, to try to have as much possible impact as I can.
Sure. And is that impact the impact that you want is for persons like within the organization, or it's more like the next generation, like your kids? Is it like, to show fellow Bahamians that the opportunity is here, you just gotta go for it?
I mean, I think it's, going back to there's just not, and it's better than it was before, but it's just also there's not a lot of people that look like me in leadership positions in the world. There's a handful in the, Fortune 500.
Sure.
And so if anybody has the potential to do it, you should strive your best to do it and lead an example for not only the country that you're from, but for people that look like you.
Sure.
Definitely is for the second generation, for my kids and stuff, but they'll figure out whatever path they want to be. And ideally, I lead a good example of, what their paths can be. But, I think there's just this desire to just go as far as they possibly can. It's almost like I'm pretty young in my career. Like when I look across the board, there are people much more experienced in roles that I have.
Sure. I mean, you're only 50, so you gotta...
Yeah, I look good, right?
I'm kidding.
I am not 50. But yeah, I just saying, it's just like, when I calibrate, there's a lot of people who spend a lot more time to get where I am. So there is the desire that I talked about, but then there are a lot of people that took bets on me over the years. And, I think it was, I just got this Merchant of the Year award from a kind of media group in our industry. And what was the most rewarding is when they posted it on LinkedIn, the people below who were saying, congratulations, so proud of you. And I mean, like, legends in the game of retail.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is wild. Like, people I haven't talked to in like half a decade. And it's just like people over time who was invested in me and take bets on me, and they might have moved on and do other things, but they're still watching. And so whenever, things come out and I see the names, I'm like, it's mind blowing.
That's dope, man.
Yeah,
That's dope.
yeah.
So how shifting gears a bit, how do you define purpose? Like your purpose? Like what do you feel is the purpose that you serve? In this world?
I don't have this like deep meaning of it. Like, my purpose is to, be a good son, to be a great father, be a good husband, be a good friend, be a good uncle. I think as I kind of think through how I, over these years of work and the impact that I've had and the relationships that I've built, I just want to give more than I receive. And I think that is the most important thing for me in every aspect, even if it's not warranted, even if, I haven't heard from, an auntie or an uncle in a long time. And, they should probably be reaching out to me because I'm the nephew or, whatever. I want to go a little bit further and say, hey, even though this is how it should be, the way I think it should be is a little bit different, so I'm going to operate differently, and I want to be one that has, positive impacts on everybody that I interact with. And so I think outside of that, there are clear pieces of impact that I need to have in society. I aspire to be a philanthropist and give back. And then you think about the wealthiest people in the world. They have all these great ideas and they have, great companies. And at the end of the day, they just spend the rest of their life giving it all away.
Yep.
Because that's the fulfilling part,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I'm not close to any, any of those guys, to be clear. But I still, in my own way, can have, the impact that I have, which is, giving back and add value to people.
Yeah.
And, it's not lost upon me that, this is a blip in the continuum of time. And so you just want to be as positive as you possibly can to anybody that you interact with.
I want to introduce you to the Munroe Global app, the ultimate platform to empower your leadership journey and inspire your purpose-filled life. Access timeless teachings designed to help you grow in every area of your life. From leadership development to personal growth, Munroe Global has it all at your fingertips. With the Munroe Global app, you'll have exclusive access to powerful videos and messages from the legendary Dr. Myles Munroe, a digital library packed with life-changing content right at your fingertips, and a vibrant global community of visionaries, leaders, and change makers just like you. Whether you're at home, on the go, or in the office, the Munroe Global app ensures you never miss an opportunity to learn, grow, and lead. Available now on Google Play and the Apple App Store, the Munroe Global app is your gateway to unlocking your potential and impacting your world. Download the Munroe Global app today and take the first steps toward living the life you were born to lead.
So if you could go, like everything that you've learned
Yeah.
to this point, right? Everything that you've experienced, if you can go back to your 18-year-old self
Yeah.
and tell him one thing, what would be the thing that you say?
Slow down. Yeah. I was impatient for a lot of things. As,
Don't we?
as you may or may not know. Slow down.
Yeah.
I was very much super ambitious. I wanted everything quickly, and in a lot of spaces didn't stop, to take in the view. Didn't stop, and I unfortunately still don't celebrate a ton of stuff. I remember when I got VP, people were like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, "I'm going to work." And I got SVP. It was like, "Hey, how are you going to celebrate?" By doing a good job at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never really, I've never really spent time. And you guys know, because living in Bentonville, you tend, especially in those early days, you over-indexed on work.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily because there's nothing else to do.
Yep.
So I think it was good,
Yep.
but there's more things that I should have been a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I should have took the time to come home to, go to my grandma's birthdays, milestone birthdays. I called instead of coming in town. Mom's, dad's birthdays, sisters, just like family things. I prioritized work over them because I needed to focus.
Sure.
Even celebrations that we have, we, would do occasional, connection trips, or we go out and reconnect and all these other things. But work was first, and so I think if I could think about all those things, I don't know if I would change the dynamics of work being first, but I would explore more opportunities to do things that weren't directly in line with my goal and objective.
Sure.
Which is leading. I would have taken other jobs or explored other jobs. I got opportunities to be with Walmart and go into an operations job in California one time. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm staying here. I need to be close to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
South Africa came up, China came up. And all the times I'm like, I don't want to go there and get, you think about all this stuff. I don't want to go there and get stuck. I don't want to, but everything works out in the end if you are a person that adds value. So I would tell myself to just slow down, take in the view, spend a little bit more time to get to know yourself, spend more time with your family. But that's what I've done. I would have done a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. How does faith play a role in this, right? Because, being a pastor's kid and growing up in the church, how has faith played a role in your success?
Yeah, I think there's a component of understanding that there's stuff that are outside of your control, and it has to be driven by something else. And people can say whatever you want. My perspective is that there is a force outside of us that directs and guides, and it has allowed me to operate with a bit of freedom, which is, if this thing doesn't work out, I know something else will. And so the confidence that I have in any occasion that I'm in is derived from my faith, which is I am very confident that I am going to have the success that I want to have because I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do. And as long as I continue to do those things, I will continue to have the success I have. It is a confidence builder, the same way as, being from the Bahamas, differently, clearly, because it's more spiritual, but it is something that allows me to operate freely in spaces where I feel like, hey, if things don't work out, something else will.
So what would be your advice to young individuals, let's say young Bahamians, or young individuals that look like us, who have desires or ambitions to be a global leader or to be an SVP of one of the largest companies in the world? Like, what's your advice, or what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. The first thing is surround yourself with the right company. It is not accidental that our friendship group, which I won't go into the details, are all successful in their own spaces. You have to be very choiceful who you surround yourself with. Like, externally, my friendship, base came from college, high school. On the workplace, the friends that I developed were people who we had things in common, which were, we wanted to move in the company really fast, and we weren't afraid of hard work. I could have hung out with other people, and I would have probably had different career results. Being selective with who you surround yourself with is like the most important thing.
That's crazy, right? Because growing up, our parents would be like,
"Oh, you and hanging out with this one." It could be your cousin. You're not sleeping over there on the weekend.
Oh man, and they're so selective because they see, right? They know.
100%.
They experience it, so they're able to be like, "Nah, that's not the right one for you." Yeah. And it's almost like the show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
100%
type of saying that we grow up hearing as well.
100%.
So the environment that you put yourself in,
the environment that you create, that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is be okay with putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. Because if I had looked at Springfield, Missouri and said, I don't want to go there, there's nothing there. It was, at the time, it was a feeder for Walmart. I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. Now, would something else worked out? Sure. But because I was there, I did what I was supposed to do. Everything else took care of itself. I was in an uncomfortable situation. So I think putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where you can benefit, I think, is probably the second thing. The third thing, if I had to have a number 3, is be the discipline that you need yourself to be. And what I mean by that is you have to be okay with doing hard things. You have to create an environment where you figure out how to do hard things. And if it's taking on a course that is going to be harder than the other one for whatever reason, like switching degrees to do more difficult degrees because of potential ability to get hired is probably the right thing than taking the easy degree. Hitting the gym, working out, being disciplined with that, it's a confidence builder. Having discipline in small things add up to big impacts. And so that would be the third thing, which is, find a way to be disciplined in something and allow that to spill over into the other things in your life. And it could be whatever it is, find it and hold on tight to it. And I always tell people, like, if you can do that, then there's really nothing that you can't do, because the discipline provides a confidence builder, knowing that, hey, if I just put in the time, I could figure this thing out. And so as long as you have that, you'll be all right. Those would be the 3 things.
So what would you like your legacy to be? Like how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah.
Whether from professional perspective, from a personal perspective, or just holistically as
Yeah.
Ralph Clare. What is legacy to you?
With the hard hitting questions. Yeah. How do you define legacy?
Mm-hmm.
You tell me.
So for me, and I was thinking about this recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because with my we hear these talks about leaving a legacy,
Yeah.
right? And like what exactly does that mean? Is
Right.
it leaving finances, or is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
leaving assets,
Yeah.
like to your family and friends and kids and all of
Mhm.
this? And the one thing that I realized that my parents left once they passed, that is intangible,
Mhm.
is, well, two things: is they're a good name
Mhm.
and their impact on others.
Yeah.
What I've realized is over these last 10 years, a lot of the opportunities that I've had and people that I've been able to come into contact with, and the things that we exchanged or shared,
Yeah.
had a lot to do with my parents' impact.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like there are things that I would not have gotten had it not been just
For
for
the
that.
impact. Yeah.
So for me, like, no, I want to, the legacy that I want to leave is, I want to be so impactful on others that it transfers to my kids
Yeah.
without any hesitation.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, obviously I want to leave my kids in great financial positions and
yeah.
stuff like that, but most important to me
Yeah.
is leaving that behind. Like,
Yeah.
I want them to walk in a room and they'd be like, that's Myles Munroe Jr.'s son, or Myles Munroe Jr.'s daughter, and I'm going to treat them with this level of respect,
Right,
or
right.
give them these
100%.
these things because of who their parents were, right? Because that's, my wife and I, we go through this all the time, and like, we may go somewhere and try to be doing something. And I remember when we were getting my daughter's passport,
Yeah.
and we walked into the passport office, and the lady recognized me. And she asked me a weird question. This is the first time someone ever asked me this question like this. She's like, "Why are you just walking in here so normal?" And I can remember my wife and I, like, we looked at each other.
I'm sorry.
Like, what do you mean? And she's like, "Yeah, like you're not, like, you're not saying, hey, I want this type of treatment. I want to be first in the line. Like, you just come and take a number and
Yeah.
sit down." I say, "Well, I don't know any other way to do it," right? But what she was saying was, "Man,
Yeah.
you come from such a respectful
Yeah.
family that you should demand more,"
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
And it was almost as if she was saying, like, "I want to give you more. Like, I want I want you to demand this," right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I just think it's the impact that
interesting.
the
Yeah.
family has, or
Yeah.
my family has had, within this country, outside of this country.
Yeah.
And I recognize that, and I don't take it for granted.
Right.
So for me, it's being able to have that same type of impact, same type of influence, so that my kids could benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing we don't spend a lot of time thinking about is what happens after we're gone.
Mm-hmm.
No one's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just thinking about what happens after I die." That's not on the list. But I do think, to the thoughts you shared just now, it's what I would want to have for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
It is a trajectory change for my name, for my family, in a way that is balanced and fun-loving. You hear about people's legacies who, provided great financial success for their kids, but then there wasn't any relationship, or things weren't great, but they did the money thing, so they get to check that box. I think for me, my sons being value-adding members of society. If I'm, gone before my wife, her status being elevated because of the work that I was able to do, or what we were able to do together. And that, after a couple of generations, people still talk about the things that we are able to do. Not me, but the things that our family, similar situations you be in. That's what I like to do for my family. And so I think it's incredibly important, to the point that you made, that you are consciously thinking about those things to ensure that you're treating people the right way, you're having a great time while you're doing it, and you're having positive impact. And I think that's the goal.
Yeah, man. I mean, legacy for me is like you say, enjoying the moment, being in the moment, and just being conscious of how you affect people. What you say, how you say it, what you do.
100%.
It all means something. So 100%, man. I wish you success in achieving this legacy and what you leave behind. You've been inspirational for me. Just again, knowing where you started and like where you are now. I may be talking to the future CEO of Walmart, man. I see that for you, wish that for you. Or maybe not even Walmart, right?
Stars align.
Just a future CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I think, that's a testament, right? To you and your work ethic, the value add that you have in every position you've held so far. And I think people see it, man. So congrats on all of your success. Oh, so before we leave, I asked this parting question to all my guests, and it is, how do you define success?
I think it is a combination of achieving goals and enjoying that. So when people achieve goals but they don't enjoy it, I don't think they're successful. And it doesn't have to be the biggest goal in the world. It could be, I want to add 10 pounds of mass. You're able to do that and you enjoy that process, you're successful.
Enjoy the process or enjoy the achievement?
Enjoy the process.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah. And I think anybody could go through life being miserable and and achieving financial wealth. Like, I don't think that you can have the two without it. Like, you have to be, one, enjoying the process to get to this goal that you set, and then be fulfilled and rewarded and be successful. I've had jobs which I would say I don't think I was a success. Outside looking in, people would be like, this guy's killing it. But inside, I'm miserable because I didn't enjoy it. And so for me, it's going through a process of achieving a goal and being satisfied and happy when you get there and enjoying that process. So that's kind of my formula. So, that's what I wish for everybody, which is like, you're going through some tough things, you enjoy the process, and then you achieve the goals that you want. Yeah,
man, success is in the journey. I totally agree. Go ahead.
So, Gene, how does it feel being a Bahamian at Walmart, knowing the relationship between Bahamians and Walmart?
Hopefully it's good. Has that changed? We used to love going to Walmart.
That's the first stop.
That's what I said.
Every time we
travel. We love Walmart.
Yeah, but how does it feel to know that?
It fills me with pride. It fills me with pride.
I think you should extend some of those benefits. to your people.
We've talked about some stuff. But no, I mean, like, listen, it fills me with pride. We all know when we came, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there's a company that used to exist called Kmart. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. And I remember, man, when we used to fly, because everybody fly to Miami, and then you start doing stuff. I remember seeing Kmart. Then I remember a couple years later, I stopped seeing so much Kmart's and I started seeing Walmart's. And I was like, what's this Walmart, And then we started going there, and Daddy would always be talking about how much money he was saving, because, we'd buy a bunch of groceries and ship it home. And when I tell people that story, they're like, that's incredible. I was like, yeah, it's still probably cheaper now to do that. but it fills me with a lot of pride because, this is a company that has had positive impacts on my life, even when I didn't know, right? Because mommy and daddy saved so much money on, groceries and stuff. We could get our first, it's not even a gateway computer,
taking it back.
Yeah. And so when you think about the company's kind of ethos and the purpose of the company, save money, live better, like the idea is, and like, let me tell you, they mean that. Like, this is just not like something cool that Sam Walton said, years ago. Like, sure. They mean that. Like, maniacal about getting costs as low as possible. Maniacal about adding value to people's lives. And so, like, if it was a fake, I don't think I'd be able to last there so long. I've been there 17 years. It's real. And it's cool to be a part, like, of that organization and knowing how much it means to our country and how much money it saved people over time. Like, it's legit.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, man, I appreciate you again coming on.
100%.
Like I say, your journey has been inspirational for me. I'm happy to say I'm proud of your success.
I gotta give you your flowers too. Man, listen, it ain't easy.
Yeah,
we know that.
Yeah.
And you're still doing your thing. You guys have an impact. We're watching. All of us. We're very proud of the things you're doing.
Appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? You guys killing it.
This ain't about me, man. This is about you.
Yeah, I know. Just have to drop that in there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But yeah, man, I've seen.
Yeah.
I've been on this journey with you, right? We've had
100%
tons of conversations along the way, and just seeing the plans and goals that you've set and you crushing them, man. It's encouraging.
Yeah.
You inspire me. Obviously not from the corporate America standpoint, because I'm more of a entrepreneurial mind, and I can't see myself in a corporate structure. At least not in the sense where you are. Yeah, but I mean, you thrive in that environment is what I'm saying. And I'm inspired by I'm inspired just by the confidence that you have, right?
Yeah.
And the pride that you have in the function that you serve.
Yeah.
I think a lot of persons would enjoy the journey, like you say, if they enjoyed what it is that they do.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us just go through the motions and, we just do it because it's here or the opportunity is here or whatever. But I don't see that for you, man. Every time we talk, you've said on numerous occasions, man, I love what I do.
Yeah, man.
And you could tell it beams off of you. And I think that echoes in the successes that you have, right? The people that you lead, the notoriety that you get within your organization from executive level. I think that exposes the joy that you truly have in the function that you serve. And 100%. So kudos to you, bro.
Appreciate
congrats on all your success. We'll do this again when you get the CEO time, boy.
If you got to help me in before then.
I'm clouded, but I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on the pod, bro.
Yeah. Of course, happy to be here, bro.
No. All right, so this brings us to the portion of the pod where I want to leave with you a milestone. The milestone for today is very simple. Where you're from, it can shape you, but it does not have to limit you. I've been having this conversation with Ralph, and him being from the Bahamas, these islands in the Caribbean Ocean, who you could barely see us on the map, right? But he is, his journey has brought him to being the SVP in one of the largest companies in the world. The largest company in the world. From humble beginnings and to now just dominating and crushing everything that he does, right? And I just want to encourage everyone out there that it's possible. Where you start doesn't matter, right? It's your mindset and the journey that you are willing to go on, right? And the challenges that you're willing to overcome, so that you can achieve what it is that you set out to achieve. So don't let your start limit you. Just know that the ceiling does not exist. And, just push for greatness, man. That's my encouragement. All right. So, Ralph, thanks again for coming on, man. Really happy to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I think, what you've shared it's going to help. Like, if not our generation, the generation after us, right? Because it's inspirational, man, just to know that, you know, you could start off as a pocket boy, 100%. Packing groceries, you know, making $250 a week, to
cash money,
being, you know, SVP of the largest company in the world, making hundreds of dollars, you know. Just it's inspirational, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So congratulations. I'm happy for you. And I wish you nothing but success, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this pod. Always happy to be talking with friends who have achieved a certain level of success, and they're able to share their stories with you. As always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, until next time, you guys stay blessed.